Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Yoong. I'm Ethan's operating partner. And today, Chaitali Narla and I will talk about the career and personal challenges often faced by women in tech. For background, Chaitali has had rapid career growth. She's currently an engineering leader at Stripe, but before that, she was an engineering director at Google, where she got 5 promotions in 10 years. That's fast. She also has a 9-year-old, and helping women in tech grow is a topic that she's passionate about. So let's dive in. First, welcome, Chaitali.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here and really excited to talk about this.
I want to break it up into 2 parts. So the first part, let's tackle the career challenges, and then we could tackle the personal challenges.
Sounds
So
good.
just kicking it right off, the career challenges, from your experience, what are the top roadblocks that you have experienced or you commonly hear from women in tech?
I think the first one is lack of role models. Really not finding enough other people who have walked the same path as you. And at every level, when I was a junior engineer, senior engineer, manager, even getting to director, especially the higher up you go, in fact, the numbers reduce dramatically, right? So it gets harder to find someone else like you who can tell you how was it. And that was one of the reasons why I was very passionate about doing this talk, and hopefully my experience helps some of you. But that, I think, is the first challenge. The second challenge that stems from that first one is you get into feeling like, well, if no one has done this like me, then, and I'm unable to find someone like me, then maybe I won't make it. So that self-doubt also is a very big deterrent. And I think pushing past that is a challenge by itself. So those were like my two top ones, and then I'm sure there's a long list of. I saw some of the preceded questions touch on this. How do you, challenge that not technical enough kind of comment? How do you, handle, especially if you're an engineering leader, you're gonna have to contend with different opinions, have some strong rooms that you have to push past. So all of those are very real challenges day to day. But I think these two have been the
Hmm.
ones that are a constant theme throughout my career.
If we double click on the first one, so lack of role models or mentors, if when thinking back at the first, let's call it 5 or 10 years of your career, how did you overcome that? Were you able to find these role models?
Some, I would say, it was definitely easier, and easier is again relative if you compare to, the others not in the minority, you would have a different answer. But it was easier to find mentors earlier, and like I said, it does get lonelier in the journey as you go up. What I did learn was that you don't need to wait for one person to be that role model. You can take different learnings or different inputs from different mentors. So I learned to have like almost like that board of directors. And even today, like I don't think I can point to any one person who is my go-to mentor, or that one person I hope can give me everything needed for my career journey. I like to have that approach of many different viewpoints. So that became a theme throughout. And I would say that really helps with overcoming this, because then you're free to have either, like, you might find women for some things, you might find men for some other things, but and it becomes very specific as well. Someone might help you learn communication, someone else might help you
Mhm.
learn organization design, whatever skills you're looking for.
The topic of board of directors is fascinating to me because I feel like most people know that it's important, but how to get that, how to build that board of directors is where a lot of people get stuck. So some quick fire questions. When you say your board of directors, how many people are we talking about?
I would say at the moment, I try at any given moment to not have more than like five or seven. More than that, then you really, you don't know who to call for what, and why do you have that list? To your question about how to find them, I actually think finding is easier than unfinding them,
Okay.
because what happens, and I've spoken to quite a few mentees at various times that, they're like, oh, I talked to this person at this time about a year ago. At the time, I felt like they would be a great mentor for this specific problem I was having, but I've kind of gone past that. Right, I've solved that problem now, or I've gone past that stage in my life. But I don't know how to tell this person that I don't need you as my mentor anymore. I might spoil that relationship. So, particularly, like I think us as women leaders, we tend to hold on to that a bit more. And I think that has also been a learning for me, that you can continue having a connection to the person. And you don't need to tell them that now you are not on this my speed dial list, but you can shift your, top 5 people and kind of change
Mm.
your board of directors as you go through your career journey.
When you I like the idea of changing it. It's almost like the idea of seasonality based on
Absolutely.
your current growth needs. Um, how do you how did you foster the initial outreach? When you look at your board of directors, are these people that you already work closely with, or does it ebb and flow? Some are, further away, or some you were recommended by your manager. How did that work in terms of actually like making that connection?
Great question. And, I'm going to channel one of my favorite TED Talks, Carla Harris. I will drop in the link later on. Uh, Her advice really, really resonated with me the first time I heard it, and now I just tell everyone about it. Find sponsors, not mentors, especially for women. This is so important. Yeah, I see a thumbs up. Thank you. It's so important for women. Like, you want to find somebody who, you can establish really a bi-directional relationship. I'm not even talking about like a one-directional, that this sponsor will somehow buy you a golden ticket for your next career stage. It is about a two-directional relationship. And I know Ethan talks a lot about like the magic loop. That works on so many people, right? It's not just your manager. It could be your product partner. It could be the colleague you work with. It could be a senior IC engineer that you're connecting with. So, building that relationship, and that's where I think I've gotten a lot more value of having people closer to my work, who can also not only advise me but have a stake in the game,
Mm.
to help me grow. And in return, I mean, sometimes it is that I am part of their organization, so helping me grow is great for them as well. Sometimes it is I'm part of their project, so again, helping me succeed is good for them as well. As that, I think, has worked a lot better. So find sponsors, not mentors.
I really like that. Find sponsors, not mentors. I personally think the term mentorship is
Is
overused.
overrated.
It's overrated, and partly because Ethan and I talk a lot about two things. The the right incentives will tell you the reasons for things, but also skin in the game is super important.
Absolutely.
And that's where the sponsorship comes in, right? And like you said, it's both ways. So I do agree to that one. On this
Now, I
topic,
will add one more thing I will add, Jason, is senior manager in above. You may find it useful to also have a coach in that board of directors.
mm,
And the way I differentiate a coach from a sponsor is, coach offers you a different perspective. Like, sometimes it's just hard to get out of your own head, and you want to have a different viewpoint of your problem. You might think it's a huge problem, that I'm the only one who's faced it and I don't know how to make my way out of it. And a coach might change your perspective, that it's actually really small, or it's going to get solved in a few days or a few weeks. And have you tried this other thing you didn't think of? So, I think I have found it valuable at the more senior levels, to also have a coach, and that person is someone completely as far removed from your day-to-day work as possible, that helps get a perspective.
I agree. The third party far removed is effective in that sense. Um, on the board of directors, tied to mentors, a lot of people aim for as senior of a person they can get. But like you said, sometimes people more closely to your work are actually better
Yeah.
because they can provide tactical advice. How do
Yeah.
you view that? Do you do a mix up of all, or what's your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
I highly recommend a mix of that. In fact, I will talk about my situation right now. So some of you might know from my intro. So I spent 15 years at Google and then most recently switched to Stripe less than a month into my new role here. It has been super useful to have some junior IC engineers as my part of this board of directors here. They have a very unique perspective. Google was a company that I grew up in, and I had plenty of engineering knowledge there. I knew how to submit code, how to deploy to production, all of those day-to-day activities. Here, it's been completely different. Like I have not had that journey, right? So having that perspective from someone who is going through that every day, I think keeps me grounded, and it has been very useful to know where is my thinking and feeling really badly diverging from what maybe the average engineer in the org is experiencing. So absolutely, don't try to go for the most senior and stack up your board. It may not be useful. Even when I was the junior engineer, I would say seniority was relative. Like you may want someone a level or two about to work with you, but if at the time I went and tried to get a VP on my board when I was like a recent grad engineer, I don't think it would have been very useful. They would just be like, "I have no idea and I have no interest in knowing what you're doing."
Mm. I love that you do the mix up of both and that you currently have junior IC engineers as part of your board of directors, because it does give a different perspective and it keeps,
Absolutely.
it keeps you fresh on the latest trends too.
Yes.
Um, okay, on the lack of role models. Now, kind of reversing it, you're in a engineering leadership position. I imagine you must get a lot of outreach to be someone's mentor or sponsor.
Yeah.
First of all, so first question is, how do you deal with the high volume of outreach? Because you can't do it all.
Yes, yes. Well, one of the ways has been to write my newsletter. I'm hoping like that is the
Mm.
channel to, outreach a lot more. And of course, I found like I enjoy writing as well through that. Another one is talks like this. Hopefully that reaches more. But I am honest with most reach outs. If anyone here also reaches out to me, I will say that also not just because of that I am kind of choosing or anything, but just practicalities of being a working mom, being a senior leader, all of that together. I think I am honest mostly that am I really going to be valuable to you in what way, and how can I help you? If it's a specific request, like you're looking for a specific referral to a role that maybe I'm hiring for, great, I can help with that. But if it's a more generalized, I just want a mentor, then this is where like you'll frequently see me send my Carla Harris TED Talk link over and be like, you want to look at this and you really need a sponsor, not, a mentor of LinkedIn who's only met you once or never in real life.
How does besides specificity, what is the way that someone really catches your attention? And where you think, oh, maybe I do want to sponsor or mentor that person.
Great question. I would say most of that attention catching has been, again, through my day job and interactions and in my organization, and very little of very distant connection. And if someone has been a distant connection, like we met at a networking event, or we have a LinkedIn connection, closing that distance has helped with like building that relationship and catching attention. I don't think I maybe others have other stories here, but I don't have a story of like, oh, I randomly sponsored someone I knew nothing about and now they are a big success. I think it's been a lot of interactions, and slowly like maybe we got hired into the same company, maybe we met some more over some other connections, and continued on. So that's one. I will say the other thing internally, if I look at my Google journey and where I have really felt like giving sponsorship. I posted about this recently too, is side quests. I did this myself a lot, and I encourage others to do it as well. One, they fuel me. Side quests I define as like things you are not asked to do, but you pick up to do yourself. It could be doing some interviews. It could be, running a fun event for your team. It could be lots of these additional things that are not part of your core job. And I have met people and gotten sponsorships myself through such opportunities. The other way is also true that people have met me through some of that, and I felt like, okay, you seem like someone, if you are bringing in this much rigor in your side quest, then your day job at your actual work must also be amazing. So why don't we work together on some opportunity?
Regarding closing the distance, I'm the same way. The great news for everyone watching this is Chaitali has a newsletter, which means Chaitali is building in
Thank you.
public, and it's an avenue for you to provide feedback or to provide value in some way, right? So basically, Chaitali is opening the door to that.
Absolutely.
Most
That
people
is
don't take
one thing I
advantage of
will
it.
say from Substack. Like, please add comments or,
Yep,
even responding in email if you do read it. And then I'm also on the Slack community. So in Level Up, happy to connect there as well.
exactly. Uh, Chaitali, on the second challenge that you brought up, self-doubt. Okay, that's a tough one, and I like what Tanvi wrote, that it's the first input for imposter syndrome, because
Yes.
everyone has imposter syndrome sooner or
Yes.
later. Um, how if someone comes to you saying, "I have this self-doubt because of the lack of role models or because I don't see many women in roles that I aspire to be," how do you advise them through that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should admit on recorded talk, but I'm going through that imposter syndrome right now, right? I changed companies after a very long time and in a very different environment. Um, I think, the way I choose to look at this and all other times in my career this happened, you can go into the victim mindset and say that, well, I might as well just give up because I've never seen anyone do this, or you shift into that ownership mindset of I will make it happen, and my journey might look different from others who have taken it, but I will adapt, and I'll still try and make it happen. I think that latter mindset of ownership and still going about it has helped me a lot. And keeping up that openness to being adaptive. You are going to face challenges of feeling many times like you can't do it, or the imposter syndrome is strong. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it.
Well, I'm looking through some of the pre-submitted questions because I think some of them are going
Sure, yeah.
to tie into this.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
here's a good one. How do you avoid double proving yourself in a male-dominated environment?
Good question. I have to start with admitting that a lot of times I have ended up double proving, and
Mm.
I think it's real. Some of the ways I have really, and as I got into more senior roles, I voice this very frequently. Um, First of all, titles do matter. Titles matter for women, or if you're any other kind of underrepresented minority. No matter what anyone else tells you, it just saves you that much more time and energy if you don't have to put your credentials on the table each time. When my title was just software engineer, when I was actually the tech lead of a team, I saw that difference when that title was changed, right, to becoming like to the tech lead title, and someone would go look me up in the company directory and it showed up differently. So no matter what anyone tells you, it does matter if you, especially if you're a URM leader, and stand up for it and ask your allies, your manager, your peers, whoever are your allies, to help you with that. The second one is building that network, really having and knowing who are your allies. So in times like when you're being spoken over, in times when you're unable to break in and make your point, I found it very useful to really have allies who can do that for me and to be in environments where you can find some of that allyship. I do think I have rated that highly in all of my career journey. When I started managing teams, I've worked to create that environment in the team. But certainly, like I talked to quite a few sponsees and mentees who describe environments that may otherwise be healthy, but they are not conducive to them and their growth, and that is a very real consideration. I do want to acknowledge and call it out loudly that that's a very real barrier many women face to growth.
On the topic of allyship, how do you identify who are the best allies to build that relationship with?
I have found, again, similar to the sponsor question, that it is people around you, people close to you. If you try to go looking for allies that are very far away, they may not be in the right place at the right time to help you. I'll give a personal story here. So, when Saanvi, my now 9-year-old daughter, was born, Google fortunately had a generous maternity leave at the time. But when I went back to work, it was still she was still breastfeeding, and she was on some solids, but she had I had that quota of milk every day that she needed. And we had a summit that my manager was like, "You should go to." I'm based in Seattle. This was in the Bay Area. So it would be 2 nights away from home. Even if, I tried to minimize the travel, 2 days and 2 nights. And I brought this up with my manager at the time, who was really a big ally, very big sponsor for me. And he was like, well, don't worry, we have a lot of breaks built into this. You're gonna have your time. You'll be able to pump. Don't worry about it. And that's when I realized that you may have to educate and direct your allies. Don't assume that when they are your allies, they know everything about your struggles. So I told him, well, that's great, but I cannot reimburse shipping milk back home as a corporate expense. It was not at the time part of reimbursable expenses. And that was big because, like, you have to ship it refrigerated in a certain way. It is fast delivery. It's not cheap to do that, right? And then that was a light bulb moment for him as well. He was like, "I'll come with you, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go to HR, discuss it." And he did a lot in that direction until we got that approval, and I was able to reimburse it. But until that moment, even though he was a parent, he didn't know. And I think it was a very powerful moment for me as well, that don't assume that your allies will just be there to help you and they'll know everything you need. You have to also speak up and direct that allyship.
That's a great point. Don't assume, speak up, and direct the allyship. What in that situation, if someone found themselves in that situation, they spoke up like you did, but their manager didn't get it and didn't want to get it or didn't want to help as much as your manager did, how would you have handled that type of situation?
That goes to some of the other barriers we've been talking about. And I think one of my principles has been always to decide on the trade-off of, uh, I look at it as I've written an article about this work-life tapestry. And sometimes work is important, sometimes not work stuff. My life is important, right? And it's always that balance. So in this moment, for example, if that summit was really important to my career, I was at the moment in the focus of, like, I have had my maternity leave. I'm really back at work and I want to get in, and I do need to go and be in that summit, in that room. I would have worked out the pay myself, like to ship that milk back home. And that is the philosophy more broadly I apply. Like, is this important to me enough that I have to make it happen? And sometimes that this is something at work, and sometimes it is in personal life. Like if my daughter's school event is important and I have to miss a work meeting, knowing that, I might lose a chance to speak up or be visible in some place, I have made that trade-off at times. At other times, it's been in the other direction. So I would say um, I don't like the concept of work-life balance. Balance makes me feel like it is very rigid. You account for a certain amount everywhere. To me, like that tapestry of like weaving in one or the other as things that are important in your life resonates a lot.
I agree. I don't like the term work-life balance. The harmony or tapestry makes more sense.
There is no
Um,
balance.
there is no balance, right? It's a facade. Uh, when you had to make those hard decision trade-offs, family or work, or go to the meeting, miss the child's play, how did you decide that? What was your thought process?
It some of it is internally going through like, what will I miss out if I do one or the other? Some of it is also deciding on, what happened in the recent past.
Mm.
If I have, done missed out too much on the work side, then should I, lean in on that side a bit more? And then some of it, like I said, is really what is important to you at that time in your life. I think
Mm.
a lot of people, look at a very long span of time as one or the other, but it's not a binary choice. Like over my 10, 15 years of career so far, I have, in fact, sometimes it is different choices in the same day. It's not even yearly or, a monthly choice. It is different choices in the same day. So that would be my thought process on what is important at this moment and what am I trading off. But then also to consciously live through that trade off. Like once you have made that choice, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't keep revisiting, at odd times and like, oh, if only I had chosen this other way. Because you might have that. Your colleague who attended that meeting you didn't attend might, go a step ahead of you, but that's a choice you made. So
Mm. It's 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 interesting because most people that I know that have to do these trade-offs, they always think of it in the short term of the career always comes first. I don't know why. It's a topic that I'm fascinated by, so it's interesting to me how people decide in that moment. But I agree. It's the first principle is how much does this mean to you in that moment, and
yeah,
would you miss out or regret it?
I'll add one more variable to the choice of why not both. And sometimes it is possible to do. I think having your village, that was like outside of like sponsorship, not mentorship. The other best career advice I've got is to build your village. And to me, it takes the form of like having a long list of sitters that I can text and ask, are you free? Like, I need someone to do school pickup today because both of us, me and my husband, both work and we need to attend our respective meetings. So sometimes with some creative thinking, you could have it all. And it does require some upfront work, similar to shaping your professional network, building your village of, having help and having connections does take effort and time. It is also a bi-directional relationship. Sometimes I'm the one helping friends, sometimes friends are helping me. So I would say that is also an underrated investment. I've seen, I coach many women on that. How is your village? How healthy is it? And do you have
Hmm.
that ability to draw on help when you need?
I like that mental model. Uh, Santi has a good question. She asks, "How
Yep.
did you handle when people said you are not technical enough?"
Oh, my favorite topic. um, Sometimes, again, this worked more when I was in a senior enough position and the person asking this question was more or less a peer. I have asked back, are you technical enough?
Mm. I like that.
So that is one thing I would say if you're questioned that directly. But I would say over the journey at different times, this question was answered different ways. As a junior, senior engineer, another of my favorite articles, again, I'll send you the link, Jason, is Tanya Riley's Being Blue. One of the top reasons why women URMs are tagged not technical enough is we may naturally gravitate towards what is called glue work. I was certainly a victim of this earlier in my career. And that is, you are spending a lot more time on bringing people in teams together. You're facilitating a discussion. You are maybe reviewing a lot of docs that other people have written. All of those small things that really build great software and keeps projects moving. You're doing those, but they don't necessarily add up to rewardable, promotable artifacts. So I would say that being glued too much is one of the root causes of not technical enough. That is addressable by just carving time for yourself to make what your organization or these people questioning you think are technical artifacts. It could be design docs, it could be code. Later in my career, I found, especially as a manager, not technical enough was not necessarily a reflection on myself, but on my organization. Do I have seniors and staff engineers who can represent the organization appropriately? Have they built their brand as strong technical leaders, or are they stuck in glue work? So helping them shift out of that and having the bandwidth to build their brand and give enough deep work time helped me also indirectly build that. So I would say that answer slightly varies where you are in that journey, but there's root causes you can fix.
I like that. Diana, you have a question?
Hi,
Hi.
yes. So, considering there aren't a lot of women in senior positions for you to model after, have you ever experienced working in an environment where there were senior women or minorities that you felt were trying to block your progression because of the fear that you are a threat? If you have, how have you dealt with those types of barriers?
Great question. I have not, fortunately, personally experienced that yet. I should cross fingers. But I will say, like, I've talked to lots who have. Both the folks who have managed to work their way out of it and folks that have coached and helped through it. I think a few things, the same techniques you would use to convince, even a male colleague that you're not a threat. In fact, you're an asset and you should be sponsored. It would work in this, is what I've heard from folks who have gone through it. I think the other one is, again, going back to that mindsets I talked about, leaving is always an option. I don't recommend that as the first option because there's no guarantee that the next place you enter it may or may not have this problem. I think trying to first find ways out of it, whether it's by seeking other allyship or trying to figure out, what does this person who's blocking me want? I would approach this similarly in other cases when I have been blocked by other colleagues. What do they want? And can I help them get that and advance my cause as well? Can I change the zero sum game into more than a zero sum game? Some of those tactics have helped in other situations that I think would help in something like this as well. It helps to know that leaving is an option. Sometimes that's a comforting back choice. So I do encourage keeping that as an option.
Thank you.
If there's a couple of consistent through lines with Chaitali's message, and that reminds me of Ethan. First of all, Chaitali is bold in clear communication being upfront to whoever the other receiver is, and then
Yeah.
cutting through to, I know you need something, I'm looking for something, let's make a deal, or let's find alignment or incentives or something that we can work together towards. So I think
Yeah.
when you combine that, that seems to be quite effective, at least from what I've seen and what I've seen with
Yeah,
Ethan.
many times, which is all. But then I also want to acknowledge that you may not find common ground. Sometimes the distance is really too large to bridge, and I think it is important to be mindful of that. I do think what Jason you're talking about works many times, and in fact, it pushing through that friction is more effective than giving up many times. So I really encourage folks to do that and try out first. Are there things you can try to work through that situation? And if you've tried a lot, if you feel like your energy is run lower, then yeah, maybe the gap is too big and, we discuss other options.
Yep, I agree. Chaitali, going back to the glue work, Emily had a
Sure.
follow-up question. How do you
Sure.
tactfully say no to glue work?
Great question. And Emily, I'm going to answer it in the easy difficulty mode and the hard difficulty mode. The easy difficulty mode is to say no and just like get better and not have regret saying that word out loud. I had to learn to do that, practicing in front of a mirror sometimes because I come from a culture. I grew up in India and I come from a culture where saying no is considered impolite in some situations, right? So it is definitely a skill that you learn. Um, Blocking your calendar or talking about something else you're doing that is more important. If you sometimes it might feel better to give a reason to say no, and if that helps you, then saying no with the reason of this, I'm doing this other thing, I would love to help but I can't drop it, helps a lot. um, those are all tactics to say no to glue work, and that's the easy mode setting. The hard mode setting is you do that glue work task and use it to advance yourself. It took me longer to learn that, but I learned things like if you orchestrate a meeting between many different people or teams, and you reach consensus, a decision that previously was kind of at an impasse, and you help to move it along, write down those meeting notes and send them out, and that's now an artifact that you show for your leadership, right? If you reviewed a bunch of design docs and left comments that changed your the course of that project and really improved the design, put that down and note that somewhere and have that list handy as a great artifact for how you have been a technical influencer in your organization. That hard mode setting is something I would encourage everyone to learn on how to leverage glue work for your growth rather than just pushing it off, which you should do. In if it's an overloaded plate, that's not great. But there are ways you can use glue work to your advantage.
I agree. And I like that positive sum mental model of turning glue work into a leverage. It reminded me of the third door concept, where if you can't get
Yeah,
through the front door and you can't get through the back door, how the heck do you get in? Well, the third door is you could create your own, and that's what
yeah,
a glue work or side quest, as you mentioned earlier, can do it, where you become
absolutely.
the owner, etc. Great point. Tanvi, you have a question.
Yes, firstly, Chaitali, amazing thoughts, right? Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing those. I have already a bunch of notes.
Awesome.
Firstly, thank you for that. Just piggybacking on the glue work part of it, right? Like, again, great thought on working backwards and making it work in your favor. But if somebody who is above you as a person, right, and they're influencing by authority, you get continuously caught up in that tactical churn, how do you still make an impact without getting kicked to the curb as a part of the performance reviews too, right? And I'm a leader at Amazon, so I know how that process goes.
Absolutely. And I think that is where, the first, don't forget that easy mode setting of saying no. And the more forceful you are, the more boundaries you set. Sometimes those boundaries can take on official shape, like blocking calendars and, really sticking to those. I have absolutely, and I still even day to day continue to use that. It's not necessary that you have to always be in that hard mode of how can I leverage this for my own benefit. But sometimes the easy mode is a good de facto one to go to. I do think, if you are finding that constant avalanche of glue work and you're getting that feedback from peers as well, one tactic that has worked for me in the past is to up level the pattern, to suggest for, hey, we are all churning and this is a lot of bandwidth being burnt. Can we, try to recover that? And sometimes making that argument as, this is not just my problem, this is everyone else's problem. And look at all these engineer hours we will recover, whether it's like, our on-calls are heavy or we are in like 50 meetings in the week. That helped a lot. I have even done things that started out with my mindset of like, I'll take the slap on the wrist if it comes. And sometimes that has helped, like not showing up to a certain meeting and starting to send in status. This meeting should have been an email or a Slack status. And then others picked it up. You're a trendsetter, you start that. And very soon, the team is like, I don't know why anyone's going to this meeting anymore. So don't be afraid to take those kind of steps. You want to be that trendsetter, and if you feel like there are things that maybe sometimes it's just easier to show by example, do it.
Thank you. Super helpful.
I like that. And also sending a proxy on your behalf can also work.
That's right. Now we have a lot of AI tools who can attend for you.
Exactly right. Depends how bold you want to go. I do like on that topic, I do like the aspect if you can also be bold and say, listen, I'm working on X and X is important because of Y. So I'm not going to stop to do that, to do this, let's call it glue work. And you could be upfront about it. The other way is you could take it offline with that more senior leader and say, look, I'm going to crush this glue work and I will get it done and over deliver. But in return, I want this. Can we make that happen?
That's the
Make
hard mode
this happen.
leverage. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I have two more tricks to share on that. One is, you can present that what I call difficult choice. Like, okay, I can take this task that you really want me to do. Which of these three really big and important things do you want me to drop? And immediately, like most folks, I've had this trick played on me also, by the way, as an exec, and it's super effective. Like immediately, like if you tell them, I can push out this next release by 3 weeks, or I can drop this incident that is going to cost us like $1 million, and immediately the response is like, no, you do you, and we'll find out someone else for you to take over this. So that's trick one. Trick two is, if you are yourself in a senior enough role, you can sponsor someone else and pass that work along. I was in some meetings, I still am sometimes, where honestly, it became a chore for me. It was not effective. It was not, I felt like I was not adding very much there. However, when I asked one of my skip reports, would you like to go to this one? They were super enthusiastic. They were like, I have never been in that room and I don't know what happens there. And I would love to be in that meeting, and it's a great learning opportunity. So, one person's trash is another person's treasure, and things that you might think as a super boring chore might be exciting and learning opportunities for others.
Dina says hilarious power moves, very effective. I agree. Let's see. We have 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure I hit on some of these.
Sure.
Let's go with this one. What looking back at your career, which is still progressing, what would you tell your younger self? What's like the top 2 things that you would want your younger self to know?
Grit. Grit is definitely my top one, and I would go with pushing through friction. What I mean by those two is uh, there are, and this is true, especially as you grow more senior in your career, you're gonna end up with more and more frustrating moments. So you're gonna end up with things that take longer to, show the outcomes. And that gets frustrating. While on one side, you want to balance not getting stuck in waiting too long. On the other side, staying with it and working till you reach that finish line is a super important skill. I think that I didn't realize how much it was important, and now I try to. I look at my 9-year-old as like my younger self, and now I try to really build that in her. In like, don't give up too early. Try to stick with it and reach the finish line, finish what you have started. That skill has helped me a lot professionally. So that is one. The other one is like what we talked about. I call it pushing through friction. Another great talk. I have a lot of links to pass on to Jason after. And that is not giving up just because you said something, the other side said something, you both take it at face value and you move on. A lot of these micro negotiations have obviously found many moments in my career, whether it was, we want a small feature added to some other team's code, or I wanted personally something from, say, a peer review from someone else. Um, Pushing through that friction of what you think is like, oh, I had this chat, nothing happened. Um, don't assume that you've done everything you could have just from like one or two small interactions. Sometimes it might take longer. Sometimes it might take different approaches. Sometimes you may not know right off the bat what the other person wants or cares about, and you're going to have to put in more effort to work with them. So those are the two things I would really say are top ones for me.
I love those. Deepak, you have a question?
Yes, I did.
Hi.
Hi, Chaitali. I'm Deepak, and listening to you, I feel you've taken on the courage to have a lot of tough conversations. So my question is, how do you handle these conversations without getting emotional, getting dejected, right? What
Great.
tools of the trade do you have to share with us?
I am going to share a women leader's perspective, which you might not see very commonly around everywhere. Um, I have actually found that getting emotional is important and useful, and it humanizes conversations. It has helped when I've had difficult conversations like, hard performance review with a report who clearly has reasons why they have been going through that phase of their life. Um, Sitting there without getting emotional felt very not authentic. And in fact, I have had reports who have later told me that it helped that you were there with me in the moment. You recognized it. I saw the emotion, and I'm happy. Um, so I would say it's also it's important not to lose that. On the other hand, I have myself gotten emotional at various times, like whether it was angry or feeling like, crying or anything else. And it's also important to recognize when you want to step away, whether it's you or the other person. You may not be ready to have the decision conversation or the, moving forward conversation. You may only be ready to have the emotional conversation, which is okay. So that was my other learning in times like this, that it's okay to be emotional, but it's important to separate the moving forward conversation sometimes. And you might have it as different conversations, not at the same time. That's been plenty of times when I've said, for myself or for the other person, it seems like we should take a pause and come back to this conversation later when we both had time to process it and move past our emotions. Using some skills from parenting, naming that emotion absolutely helps, like saying out loud, I think, I'm feeling really angry or depressed today, or and it's not the right frame of mind for me to be in, or for the other person, like, sounds like this is a topic you're very passionate about, and your side, you're only seeing your viewpoint at this time. Would you like some time to reconsider my point of view as well, and maybe we can regroup and talk some more after. So that pause helps. These are great parenting tricks I use with my daughter as well often.
Thank you for sharing these.
I think that was great advice. It's I feel like there was a trend going on where it was the advice was to be emotionless in the office, but to do that
I
is
just can't do that.
impossible.
Maybe I missed that trend completely.
It's not human. It's an
Yeah.
impossible task, right? It reminded me because Ethan put out a question a while ago, said, "Do emotions belong in the office?" And he said, "Trick question, because you cannot get rid of them. So you have to harness them appropriately, like you just explained."
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I like that. Uh, Ding has a question. Ding
Sure.
asks, "How did you figure out your strengths and then mindfully start initiatives to leverage them?" So I guess two questions in that. How did you first figure out your strengths?
I don't think I did. I figured out my weaknesses by trying out things and failing at them. I don't know if I can like truly accurately list out all my strengths even today and say that this is it and this is what I am amazing at. What I can tell is things that I am not good at, things that I don't like doing, and that has been easier to look at. One of the ways, I would say, both for like either figuring out your strengths or weaknesses, um, I'm a big fan of putting yourself in different situations. A lot of folks look at my Google career, and when I say that I was there 15 years, they feel like, oh, you are only in one place for so long. But what was different was that I really, very consciously tried to change my job, at least annually. And that didn't mean that I moved teams that frequently. That meant like, I was trying to do more or something different than what I did the previous year. Sometimes it was even more frequent than that, because to me, that was learning. Like that was putting myself in different situations. And like I said, some of them, sometimes I learned that this is something I don't enjoy doing, or this is something I am terrible at, and then I want to do something else. So you want to try out many things to get that answer, and that means you have to be comfortable with failures and finding things that you're not good at.
I agree. It reminded me of something that Molly Graham recently wrote about collecting experiences throughout your
Yeah,
career. And when you're at a
yeah,
company for a
that's a great way
while,
to phrase it. Yeah,
right? Yeah, like working with different people, different groups, different domains, etc. And then you can figure
absolutely.
out your strengths. Let me see. With our limited time, I'm gonna try to get as much in as possible, Chaitali,
Sure.
because you're full of gems.
Thank
Um,
you.
okay, so this one came in. For women in tech who either find themselves stuck at the manager or senior manager level, what are the top reasons you think? And assume that they're a strong performer.
Yes. Um, I think the topmost reason, unfortunately, and this is proven by so many studies out there, is women don't put themselves up for whether it's a new job, whether it's a promotion. I think there are tons of studies out there that show that men will check that box and apply when they feel like they're 60% ready, while women will wait for like that entire checklist. And of course, systemically, there is lots of advice out there on how to correct this. If you're putting out a job description, or if you're in a position to promote, then be mindful of that happening. I would do that. I would routinely like book folks in my org and be like, have you considered really who should go up for promotion this cycle? Have we had that conversation of readiness with everybody? Are there people who feel like, oh, I just am not ready and I don't want to check that box? So that's, I would say, surprisingly common reason. Um, The second one I've found is not advertising yourself enough. So people don't believe you're ready. Many women, maybe this is, a thing, like I was certainly in a culture where you taught you put your head down, you work, and you will go ahead. Again, I'm referencing Carla's talk, but she talks about this, that is not how most systems work, right? You have to consciously, find those everyday moments to build your reputation, to build your image and your brand and credibility of what you want to be known for. And the artifacts and the packets and peer reviews, all of that will follow. But really, like, what perception are you building is going to come from you taking those conscious steps. So that is the other one. I find that many women just feel like, I don't want to talk about my work very much, or my manager knows about it, so that should be enough. No, that's not enough. Many times, like, there is this person three hops away from you who probably should be knowing about your work. So, and they are the right ally in the right room who can speak up for you, but they don't know you.
As someone who's in an executive role right now, so where you are the skip to someone, so let's say either a manager, senior manager, what's the best way for them to get on your radar? Where you say, oh, this person is a future star. What are the top
Absolutely.
two things they could do?
Um, I do this. I know many other execs do this as well. There are a few key meetings where we are all ears and we really listen closely and deeply. It is given the exec schedule. I think Ethan talks about it in one of his articles as well. Your day is full of meetings, your context switching so much. So it is impossible to expect that an exec, an engineering lead especially, is going to be listening carefully and deeply to everything throughout the day. That's just humanly not possible, right? But every exec has their few pet modes of communication. To some, it might be they like to read documents, in early morning hours, or in their lunch break or something. To some others, it might be certain meetings that they pay deep attention to. I do that for product engineering reviews. I'm all ears. I am listening to everything said there. I am reading everything put out there. That is one of the vehicles to, showcase your work, to be visible and present. And if you haven't had a chance to be in that forum, then that's a great discussion to have with your manager about, hey, I want that opportunity. How can I, find that opportunity? So I think finding out what is that place that executive you care about is paying attention to, and then how do you make yourself visible through that channel? What is that channel and how do you use it?
I was speaking with another female executive recently, and we were talking about if you're in a big executive meeting and there's a hotly debate going on and you have some data that you can share, when do you speak up? And her answer was very simple. And she said, to all the women out there, always speak up.
Yes.
When you're in those rooms with those executives, make known your presence and
Yes.
do it. Do it concisely, state the facts, state your opinion and recommendation, and then that's enough.
Yeah,
and she said,
absolutely.
do that a few times. And she said, trust me, the executives will remember you. So
And the
be
same
bold.
goes, I would say, for emails or Slack messages. You are probably doing it far less than you should. And if you crank up the dial a lot, and if it's too much, someone might tell you. But more often than not, I've seen like folks feel like they're doing a lot, but that's not the level of engagement needed. You need to boost it up.
Yep. Okay, Chaitali, I'm going to end it with these last two audience questions.
Sure.
Anit asks, she's been given the feedback that she's been too soft and too hard at different points in her career. How
Okay.
do you balance that type of feedback?
Great. One of my favorite quotes is feedback is a gift, but you don't have to keep that gift, right? You can choose to pass it on, throw it away. You can choose to, open it and use it and act on it. It doesn't mean that you are beholden to every feedback. And I have also received plenty of contradictory feedback and plenty of times. And now I examine every piece with that filter of, is this relevant, useful to me? Is this something I can act on? Some of it I might choose to follow up and ask for more specifics. How can I do things differently, better? Some of it I might try my experimentations on. Okay, next time I interact with this person, maybe I'll try to vary how I communicate or whatever is relevant to that situation. But I think the thing that I wish someone had said out loud to me at the right time is that you really don't need to necessarily act on every piece of feedback you receive. Some of it you may just have to say thank you for your feedback and move on.
I like that. Okay, last question from Anand. What's your recommendation to overcome career setbacks due to motherhood type of breaks, whether it's maternity leave or taking a sabbatical to spend more time with your kids? What are your thoughts there?
First, I want to acknowledge that that motherhood penalty is real. I have felt it, and I think quite a few others have felt it as well. One of the ways I have handled it personally is kind of like I said, when I talked about trade-offs, right? You build it into your timeline of, what goals do you want to achieve, where do you want to go, and don't look at it as a penalty. Look at it as part of your journey. And I am proud today that, while I talk a lot about my professional journey of having 5 promotions in 10 years and getting to director, I'm also proud that I was able to do that while being a mom and, while having that very satisfying part of my journey as well, of, having that family connection. So that's one. The other one I would say is really be conscious about when you are going to lean in and what you want to do at that time. Like one of the things I did, like I was talking about before, I had made up my mind that when I came back from my maternity leave, I had set up my village in that way. I had, come in with the full thought that I might have to do more. I might have longer days. I might, have this travel for being in the right place at the right time. And those were certainly trade-offs I made at the time. That it was time that I could have spent with my family. It was time that, I could have maybe even spent on myself and resting. Being a mom is not easy. The last thing I will say on this topic is if you zoom out your rush hour years, the time when you are handling being a new mom and mom to young kids or part of a household that is handling that, is much smaller compared to your entire career and professional journey. And many folks have spoken to it about this phase. Take steps back, take multiple steps back in this time, and later regret that. So that is what I would say, that look at it in the perspective of your broader career, that your career is way longer than those rush hour years, and getting past them might help reframe the mindset of, that it's somehow going to be a part of your journey all the time. It won't be. Things will change. And my 9-year-old has way more flexibility than when she was 1 year old, and life looked very different then.
I have a 2.5-year-old, so I'm
Right
still
now,
in
life
that.
is probably looking different.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But I agree with
It
that.
really helps to have that role model who can tell you, 10 years in your future, like it will get better, it will be different, and you're not going to be as tired anymore. You're not going to be as cranky. And so it may be hard to believe in the moment, but that perspective helped me personally.
Yeah, I like that. Think of your careers. Think of your career in decades, and also combine it with
Exactly.
the regret minimization framework is quite effective.
Yeah.
Chaitali, I really enjoyed talking to you about this topic.
Thank you.
Uh,
I did
I
too.
I took a lot of notes.
Awesome.
I think we'll probably have to do another follow-up just on pure play
All
career,
right.
rapid career growth, because you have a lot of good, I think you used the word tricks. So you have you have a bag full of tricks that we can learn from.
Awesome.
Before we leave you, is there anything that this community and the listeners can do to help you?
Tell me what, this kind of dialogue and questions and connections. I would love to continue and keep it going. My newsletter is certainly one way to continue that and be there, but also in the community and on LinkedIn. I would really love to know how I can help. And that gives me joy that, like we talked at the beginning, finding role models as a woman leader was hard, and I would love to pay it forward. So yeah.
Perfect. Everyone follow Chaitali on LinkedIn and subscribe to her
Thank you.
newsletter. And I will say, there's a lot of comments pouring in, and I think you're going to help a lot of
I can
people
see
with
that.
this
Thank
talk.
you.
And I just want to say, I found you to be very thoughtful, but also thought-provoking. And it's a rare
Thank you.
combination. So thank you very much for your time, Chaitali.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for having me here.